So I have these cards, and the game is called the Story-matic. 6 trillion stories in one little box. And the way you play is you have brown cards. Yeah, they're brown. And these are like scenarios. And then you have yellow cards or gold cards. These are character attributes, right? So what we'll do is we'll draw 4 of these, and then we'll just tell a tiny little story and see what comes up. Shall we? Shall we? Ooh, yes. Yes, DrBossKey. I would love that. Mm-hmm. All right. Cards are drawn. First card. Nudist.
We should probably remind Dr. Bosskey of the Twitch terms of service before he takes his clothes off.
There's this time and place where there was this community, and they lived in the desert. I know, it's really weird. And when they lived in the desert, they often would get really hot. And they were known for essentially being too hot for clothing. And they basically formed the first nudist colony. I know, it's kind of crazy, right? And then... one of the things, as it always happens, right? People fall in love. You know, whether you have clothes on or clothes off, you can fall in love. I know it's strange, but it does happen. And our tale takes us to this point where there was a wonderful woman. Her name was Erica, and also a wonderful boy. And they were young. They were young love, right? They were late teenagers. It's a bit weird, but it's just the way it was. And his name was Tommy. So Erica and Tommy. And they'd met. They've never really had clothing on. Never had to. So. And so as all things happen when you start new relationships, at some point you have to go and meet your family. You go over and have family dinner with your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And so Tommy basically was invited over to dinner, and Erica's family was a big family. She had basically 3 brothers and her father and mother too, all as naked as the day that they came into this world. And so it's a normal thing, so they didn't really any different. And so Tommy showed up for dinner, and he showed up with a toga. He thought it was a toga party, and their minds were blown. They're like, what is this toga thing? What are you doing, Tommy? And they were very suspicious of his behavior. And Erica was completely embarrassed because, she hasn't really seen anyone in clothing, let alone her boyfriend. But she was also a little bit aroused. She was like, oh, like when you hide it all the time and it's not swinging around in everyone's face, it's an interesting thing. So but that's not a good way to meet, your girlfriend's parents. So just for the record, they're naked and you show up in a toga, you're not dressing to the right occasion, right? So, and so he apologized. They basically had him change out of the toga, and then they sat down for dinner, and they had this wonderful dinner. They had lamb chops, and they had mashed potatoes with gravy, corn on the cob. Oh, so good. And they were all very full, big fat bellies after dinner, and they all were really enjoying each other's company. And so then, as you may have guessed it, it was time for the evening's events. And so they like to play this game with croquet balls, but instead of playing croquet on the lawn like normal people, because they're enjoying their nudity, they do this thing where they put the croquet balls on their backside, and then they crab walk through the front yard, on a slip and slide, because who doesn't want like slippery, watery goodness, on their bodies. And so what they had to do is they had to essentially do a team relay race where you crab walked over with this croquet ball on your shoulders, and then you flipped around, and then you went butt to butt, and there was butt cheeks banging. And you know what? Buttspot was super excited about that. So you would come butt to butt, and then the croquet ball had to roll down and then up the other person's backside, and then they would crab walk it down the line, all in the slip and slide. So they had 2 teams. It was very weird. I don't know why they decided that. So after they had fun, they also were really into home movies, right? So one of the, while they were doing this activity, they essentially recorded the whole thing. And not that you can put anything like this out on the internet because everyone's very, very sensitive about nudity. But so what they did is they had a super fun time watching this relay race of croquet ball to croquet ball with the butt-to-butt transfers, right? And so the father, he just really loved speeding up and slowing down. So it'd be like, and then the croquet ball, and then he would speed it up, right? And then people would like wipe out. And he just loved going fast forward, reverse the whole time. And so when they were doing naked butt to butt bocce ball relay, they basically called it the naked NBBR. So it was the NBBR. So they basically pioneered this game, and they tried to sell it to basically all the folks. And the folks weren't having it. They're like, what is this? And the thing is, what they tried to do is they started to award prizes, like built in this weird meta layer, right? Where if you got the bocce ball and you managed to like wedge it between your cheeks and your partner's cheeks, I know, it's weird. They called that a double sticky.
Double sticky.
And you get bonus points for that. And so what they tried to do is because they lived in this colony of nudists, right, in the desert, was these slip and slides. They basically started the first ever, annual games. The families played it the whole time, and it was just straight shenanigans. And they also had other meta rules, right, where they had this thing called the Flappy McFlappy, and it's really weird. But if you were heavy set on the top side, and women were definitely more, I think, able to achieve this goal than the men, but not always, right? Like, and so when you were crab walking, if you managed to shake around, you were like, it was like the udder clapping, right? And if you got udder claps and you managed to keep the bocce ball on your shoulder blades, you could do this thing where you roll the bocce ball over your shoulder blade, flip out on your back, slide, and if you're doing the like this, then you can like kind of shake it up, and then you could. These bocce balls weren't very heavy, right? And you could toss the bocce ball to your partner while you're sliding backwards on the slip and slide. I know, so weird. I don't, And so they basically invited all the townsfolk, and the problem is that they basically invented the rules. They had been playing the game forever. People were getting bocce balls stuck in places they never expected to be, which was a whole thing. They once had to call an ambulance because these people they had some suction issues, right? They got so fused together with this bocce ball between them that they couldn't pull them apart. They had to actually send them to the hospital to get, it's like when you get an errant gerbil, right? That shouldn't be like on its way to places that you should never explore. So they got kind of laughed out of the town. The game was a total flop. Everyone was like, look, this is rigged. No one's going to play this. There were accidents. But some people, kind of enjoyed it. So, BBBR. There you go. Yep. Places we never thought we were going. You can't make this shit up.